welcome or welcome back. I am sitting with my back to this plant and it keeps brushing against me. So you might hear like a little sounds like that, which is perfect because it's kind of ASMR vibe. But today I wanted to talk to you about some stuff that I've been thinking about recently. I wasn't necessarily going to make a video today, but I was having so much fun taking pictures outside, and I thought, why don't we keep this party going? So it's just kind of an impromptu, maybe ramble. But one of the things I wanted to talk about was the truth. Now, I will say pretty much, not even pretty much, but actually my whole life I've been a very earnest person. I don't like to lie or create confusion. In fact, I prefer a direct approach. I want to know what's expected of me, and I want others to know what I expect from them. I want everything to be out in the open and on the table for discussion. You know, it's quite ironic because I was raised in a family that was more like, they liked everything private, and there are many topics to this day that are just not discussed, or if they are discussed, it's a disingenuous conversation where not all of the participants are being earnest, and some of the participants have an agenda, and they're willing to twist the very truth of the matter in order to accomplish their personal agenda. And of course, maybe they feel like that's the best thing, you know, to keep the harmony or whatever. And typically people who do that, it is out of survival. Typically, they're not doing it out of pure malicious intent. It's all that they know, which must be very difficult. But while that experience of reality is difficult, it's also difficult to be an earnest person who is dropped into a body in a world that seems to judge people who are earnest as naive and almost as if they deserve to be used and abused, taken advantage of, right? There are lots of people that have this sort of belief where they think that if you're not the predator, you're the prey. Or there are lots of phrases that kind of speak to this worldview where people feel like it's eat or be eaten. And because this mentality, this worldview, runs rampant throughout our society, a lot of people learn very young that being earnest is a fast way to get stomped on. And so we learn to lie. We learn to lie and hide our true intentions. We learn to coax what we want from people and situations. We don't dare directly let anyone know what we desire, because if we did, it would surely be ripped from our grasp. That's what we're taught. Of course, not directly. It's baked in, because that's the nature of this issue, is that nothing is out in the open, because being out in the open makes you a target. And so, people learn to manipulate to get what they want. And it's very hard because, at least for me, like I said, I have been earnest, and that never changed, but I'm not stupid. And I think most earnest people are not stupid, even though other people might act like they are. But I see the game, I understand the game, I know what I have to do if I was going to play the game. And in case you don't know what I mean, I understand that certain people expect you to manipulate, say one thing, but really feel a different way in order to get what you want, or kind of push people along using certain words or not using other words, all in order to achieve your personal agenda. So I understand that this is a thing that is going on, right, underneath. And I know how to do it. I can do it. I had to do it as a child in my environment. that was the way we got fed. If we wanted our parents to give us food, we had to play the game. So, for example, if I was really mad at my parents, but I was really hungry, I would have to swallow my pride, swallow this anger that was genuine and real and true, and instead go and draw a picture saying like, I love you, and do like all the cute things, and go and slide it under their door so that they would feel well disposed towards me and the other children, and they might emerge and get us some food. And that's just one example, but this was something that I did routinely. I learned that that's the way to survive. But this, of course, creates some problems. And although it was a very necessary survival skill, I guess, at the time, it is no longer necessary as an adult. I mean, there are situations where you kind of have to, swallow whatever feeling you're feeling and just do what has to be done, but that's not the standard. It shouldn't be. That should be, of course, strategically done, but in the relationships that are the closest to you, you should be able to talk about anything and everything in a genuine and earnest way. There shouldn't be any desire or need that you have that you feel needs to be cloaked in, like secrecy and lies and manipulation. But anyways, that's kind of like some background so you understand this sort of war that exists within me, my genuine and earnest nature against learned survival skills that were necessary, they were smart, they did take care of me and my siblings at the time, but they are no longer necessary. It is safe to be earnest and be genuine, even if it appears naive to certain people in the world who, just like me, learned that or a similar survival skill, which was smart. But we don't need that anymore. It's safe now. So, there's a plane going by right now. It's a bit loud, so I might have to stop, but I forgot what I was saying. Oh yeah, bringing us to the present day and this war that's happening. The war's over now, but this kind of culminated over the past maybe a month ago. It really reached its peak because I was at this sort of crossroad, a fork in the road, a fork in the road, a decision, a choice. And I don't think I want to go into specifics, but I guess I can, whatever. There was a person that I knew was not a good fit for me romantically, but there were certain benefits to having a connection with them. Mainly just I enjoyed having a connection at all, and there were aspects that were fun about it. But I realized that I was lying to this person a lot. I had to, because if I was honest with them, our connection would be over. Because I really didn't feel the way that I needed to feel in order for this connection to be genuine. But I understood I can't say that, because if I said that, the person would just be like, okay, fuck you, bye. So I was keeping them in my life, selfishly of course, because I just liked having them in my life, but I wasn't the person that, they should have, like a person that fully likes them or whatever. And so I was tempted to follow this road further, especially because I know that it's common, right? Tons of people do that. And I was watching a lot of content that was very, it's supposed to be women empowerment stuff, but it's really kind of pushing that cynical worldview and promoting the idea of like playing games with guys and leading them on, using them, which I would never do to that extent, but I was dipping my toe in the water just because of the fact that I was, making it seem like I liked him more than I did, which is wrong. And so I don't know, I kind of toyed with this for a while until one day I actually had a conversation with somebody about this, which brought me some clarity. And I think he said you would be robbing yourself if you did that, like if you pursued a relationship with somebody that you knew you didn't want to. But I don't know, it just clicked for me that I am an earnest person, and that is part of integrity, and I am well aware that other people don't play the game of life in that way. I've seen it a lot. I'm very familiar with that fact. But that doesn't mean that I'm wrong. It doesn't mean that being earnest and genuine is naive and stupid. I know I'm not naive because I know that I can be fucked up, I can manipulate, I can lie. I'm fully capable of that, and good at it, if I might add. Not that that's something you should be proud of, but I think that really brought me to this genuine decision to just kind of let that light burst out and So what if it's not fair that other people are going to lie to me and I'm gonna tell the truth to them? That's not fair, but that's okay, because truth is powerful. And when you wield the sword of truth, that's nowhere near to being naive. That's in fact the most powerful thing that you can step into. And so I made that decision. And I don't know, it's like, I'm glad I went through that experience. By the way, I immediately released that poor person from my life that I had been holding on to, because when you are living from truth, you know what you have to do. So the second you let the game go, it's clear your next step is right there. And so you don't really have to go back and forth as much anymore when you make that decision to live from truth. And plus that, if you ever are confused, you can just ask the person or whatever the situation is, and get your clarity. And because you're being genuine, you don't have to hide your desire. Put it on the table. Let everybody see it, which is very vulnerable, because if you are saying, this is what I want, then of course that does leave you vulnerable to other people saying what they think about what you want. But again, you don't have to second guess yourself anymore when you are living from truth, because if somebody doesn't like what you're doing or you're saying, you can just shrug and say, well, it's the truth, so I'm sorry if you don't like it, but it's the truth. And that's different than when you're lying, because if you create this whole narrative and people start poking holes in it, that gives you anxiety. And it's because your soul knows that the narrative is not true. And so when people start poking holes in it, it makes you feel shame. And you want to defend yourself. Because again, lying is a survival mechanism. So when people are lying, it's because they don't feel safe. They don't feel safe to tell the truth. And, you know, the quote, to change the world, change yourself. I love that quote. And so I can't make everyone in the world tell the truth. I can't make them be earnest and genuine. But there is a small part of the world that I can make tell the truth, and that's me. I can choose to live in truth always, and that can be scary. But again, I've been pretty much 95% living in truth. It sounds really funny, I know, but it's true. I'm very comfortable with the truth. It's just now I've given up that last little piece. And I don't know, it makes me feel very excited actually, because my whole body agrees with this decision. And that's what it's like to be in alignment. And I know it's not always going to be easy, especially in certain situations, but having that peace of mind there's nothing that can compare to that. Being genuine and telling the truth is power. Lying and manipulating is force. And in the end, power always defeats force. So, I am stepping into power. I've already made this decision weeks ago, but I'm just telling you about it in case you want to join me. But you don't have to, and maybe it's not time for you to do that yet. Sometimes we have to sit in the contrast. You have to sit in one experience until you are so sick of it and done with it that the second you jump into the new experience, that's the opposite of the old one, you're not looking back at all, and you remember what it was like to be in that other experience because you were there for a good minute. But yeah, I don't know. It's easy now because I'm very isolated. I don't talk to a lot of people in my real life, and so it's going to get more tricky when I start building connections in person, because it's a balance, because you need to be diplomatic. You can't just be like blurting out every thought you have, or if people ask your opinion on something that is near and dear to their heart and might be a sensitive subject, you can't just blurt out harsh criticism, And so I know it's going to be a fun experience, interesting experience, to learn how to balance that decorum with truth. And I guess a huge part of that is just thinking before you speak, giving yourself a good second to think, how can I say this, and being creative so that you're never lying, but you're also not being a dick. So I don't know. I think it's a fine line, right? But that's the paradox. I've been thinking about paradoxes lately, and that's when two seemingly opposing ideas exist together. So let me find that, because I wrote it down. Okay. So this is a paradox, right? I do see life as a game. And for some people, when you say that, they think that you are saying that you're playing everybody. Even like when you think about dating, right? when they say, oh, they're a player, that's not usually a nice thing. They're saying that that person uses people, they discard people, they have a roster. And typically, when you think of someone who's a player, you don't think of a genuine person, right? Although, of course, it's possible. But the paradox is play the game of life earnestly. And it's funny because it doesn't contradict itself, but those ideas might seem contradictory before you fully think about it, but it's a game. You learn the rules, figure out how it works, then you play it earnestly. You can win the game of life without lying. Shocker, right? Because you have to really think about what that even means to you, what it would mean to win. And for me, there is nothing more delicious and appealing that I would want as my version of success than bathing in that purity and honesty, truth. You know, my vision of what it's like to be successful is there's truth all over the place, right? My vision of success is not that sort of empty, just external markers only. It's a deep embodiment that is ever expanding on itself, curious and true. And so, now that I'm clear about that, it'll make it easier to continue playing the game of life without feeling this sort of push-pull of feeling like, oh, I'm gonna tell the truth. Oh wait, no, that's so dumb. I have to play the game. I have to keep my cards close to the chest. And again, there's a time and place, right? There is a way that you can be genuine in a naive way, and you learn through experience to be careful. And I still have to learn that more because, you know, I am somebody who sometimes I can be too trusting, and other times I can be the opposite. So you have to find the balance, and you do, because you're not dumb. And so, I don't know. That's an interesting paradox. And I want to share 2 other paradoxes that I noticed and wrote in my notes. Don't wait, but be patient. And you can just kind of think about what that means. Don't wait, but be patient. And I don't think I have to spell it out for you, but that basically just means don't sit around waiting for what you want to fall out of the sky. Don't hold yourself back and hold your breath waiting for something that you hope will happen. Live your life. Go. Do what you want to do. Have fun. But while you're doing that, you're able to kind of keep that desire in the back of your mind. Like you are waiting for it, but you're not. You're being patient. What are you being patient for? Because you know it's coming, but you're not waiting for it. It's like if you go to like downtown Disney, or I guess, what do they call it now? Disney Springs, and you're gonna go to a restaurant and there's a wait. They might give you a little thing. Probably not anymore. Now they'll just text you. But in the olden days, they'll give you a little thing that'll light up once your table is ready. And so technically you're waiting for something, but you're free to go explore, do other activities, and have fun and enjoy the wait instead of just sitting there doing nothing the whole time. So yeah, that's kind of like something I've been trying to do. And then last one is to regain control, surrender. To regain control, surrender, surrender, surrender. Surrender into whatever the present moment has to offer you. And this puts you back in control, because you cannot always control what happens in your life, but you can control whether or not you accept what is happening. So a good example of that is when I have fear lessons. So fear lessons for me are when I am afraid. And especially a few years ago, it really was reaching its pinnacle. My foot keeps falling asleep. So it's like trying to keep it alive. But yeah, so I used to feel very afraid, and that's because I had a lot of fear infused into me in childhood. So of course, as an adult, I have to work through that in order to get it out. It doesn't belong here. But as you work through things, you feel them as they exit you, like very intensely. And so back when I first started working on my fear, releasing it, I would experience very intense fear, prompted by external things, like scary things would happen as a way for me to release fear. But they were very real, and so basically it would feel very intense and horrible to feel that fear running through my body. And in that moment, there's nothing you can do, because a lot of times for me the fear would be at night when I'm supposed to be sleeping. And it was an anticipatory fear, so there was no action I could take to make it go away. So I just had to lay there with it, and that sucks. It sucks when you're feeling something that you don't want to feel, and you are rejecting it, trying to pretend like you're not afraid, and trying to argue with your mind and think of logical reasons why you should not be afraid, or try to distract yourself. And sometimes those things work, but not for long, not permanently. And so the real anecdote came from accepting the fear, surrendering into it, and more than that, being curious about it. And so I started just realizing that that's what it was. It was a fear lesson. It was an opportunity for me to befriend my fear. And so when those moments came again, and they did, instead of running away from it, I looked directly at it, and I just noticed gently, wow, this is what it feels like to be so afraid. Where do I feel that in my body? And just noticing all of the things about it. And as you do that, the fear starts to dissipate. And it comes less and less. And so you find yourself almost looking forward, not really, but also kind of looking forward to the occasions that fear visits, because you forget, what does fear feel like again? And then when fear shows up, it's always smaller. It's always a little softer, because you're friends now. You're quite familiar with fear. And that's not so scary, is it? Just coming to visit for a little bit and teach you some things about yourself. And fear is just one example, but that could be anything. For me, another one is obsession or limerence. That's something that I've been learning to surrender into and get curious about. Releasing resistance, because what you resist persists. That's a lot of S's to whisper, but yeah, what you resist persists. And so when you feel so out of control, try surrendering. And for a long time I really hated that idea, mostly because I'm a fighter, you know? I have this kind of strength that makes me not want to surrender. It's very adamant, and I needed that because, again, like the religious upbringing, I don't like it when people tell me to surrender to a savior. I hate that shit. But that's because it was denying my own power and my own agency. But you can still surrender without doing those things. Again, a paradox. And so I surrender into my power. I surrender into my greatness. And I allow it to flow gently. I don't need to force it. What's meant for me will not miss me. and I don't have to micromanage the universe. Everything is falling into place. Everything is working out exactly as it should, exactly as it's supposed to, and exactly as it was always going to. Nothing has gone wrong. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. This was always part of the plan. Well, this has been quite refreshing, if I do say so myself. I knew I wanted to talk to you, but I wasn't sure what we would talk about. So I pulled up my notes app because I knew I've written some stuff down over the past few weeks we could chat about, but that was perfect. And now I'm going to probably take a shower because I have dirt all over me because I was sitting outside on the ground. But I love you, and if you made it all the way to the end, that's crazy. Wow. Thank you so much for being here. I really value you, and I hope you're doing okay. Give yourself a hug. Give yourself a hug because you deserve to be loved, and you have the power to provide that love that you've been craving. So, do me a favor and do it. Give yourself some love. My foot is falling asleep again. Okay, I'm gonna go. I will see you soon, hopefully. Bye. Be safe. Be genuine if you're ready. If you're not ready to be genuine, that is totally fair and well within your right. Just try not to be a jerk about it, okay? I know you're just trying to survive. Alright. Bye.